This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Bergamy.
That's right, Ray and Kenny together again. First time in 3 weeks. Did you miss me?
I did.
No, you didn't. Anyway, good to have you back, though. And to celebrate the occasion, I think you should have the rundown all to yourself.
Oh, you are too kind. Straight ahead, you can almost smell the blueberry pie baking. We'll head to Homerville, Georgia to see what effect Mother Nature had on this year's blueberry crop. Also in the program, Damon Jones loaded up his camera and gear and headed out to sea for a unique look at the shrimping industry in Georgia. What he discovered was quite fascinating. Plus,
well, hey everybody, Ranger Nick here. Help, I've been turned into a frog. No, I'm just kidding. It's really me. I'm still the prince that you know me to be. This month, we're hanging out with a scientist who studies frogs and amphibians, and we're going to learn about what you can do on your ag lands to benefit these guys. That and a whole lot more starts right now on the Farm Monitor.
this year looked to be a good one for blueberry producers, but Mother Nature had other plans. John Holcomb traveled to Clinch County and spoke to one producer who said he's looking at significant losses due to a late freeze.
From spring into summer is blueberry time in Georgia, and producers are working as fast as they can, trying to finish getting their 2021 crop off the bushes. Thanks to some dry weather they've had recently, things were going smoothly. That's, of course, until it decided to start raining.
We're done with the high bush crop, which we started picking about the 1st of April with that and finished up, I guess, last week. We packed the last high bush. We just started machine harvesting the rabbit eyes, but we still got, probably 80% of the rabbit eye crop to go. And as it is, with anything else, a lot of it's going to be weather related as far as, how that goes, and hopefully. What we run into sometimes during this time of year is excessive rain that can hurt our ability to be able to pack blueberries fresh.
This year, just like the past few years, hasn't been an easy one. In fact, producers were expecting a decent crop this year, but unfortunately were hit by a late freeze that ended up damaging their crop.
We got down to about 30 degrees, and at the time we didn't think, it'd hurt us that bad. We came out to these fields and we cut into blueberries, and when you have these frost events, you cut into the blueberries and you look at the tissue inside the little small green berry, and you look at the seeds and what color the seeds are, and we thought that we'd made it through okay. But then we came back about 2 weeks later, and you could come here and shake one of these bushes and it would just rain green blueberries on the ground, and so we ended up having more damage from that than we initially thought.
And it's because of that they're expecting significant losses on one of their varieties that isn't so tolerable to the cold.
One of the big things about trying to grow and market and these crops is to, try to figure out what your estimates are. And of course we struggle with that every year, but on our high bush we picked golly, I guess about 600,000 more pounds than what we thought we would. On our rabbit eyes, I think we're probably going to end up picking probably about half of what we thought we would have picked initially. When we had the bloom, man, we had the biggest, prettiest bloom we've had on our rabbit eye crop in years, and it just wasn't meant to be.
All of this, of course, comes on the heels of the COVID-19 pandemic, which really made things difficult for them last season when trying to sell their crop. However, Goodman says last year ended up not being too bad of a year, and said this year so far isn't looking terrible either.
We were afraid that we weren't going to be able to sell the crop, but we were blessed. We were able to sell it, and trying to market a crop through a 100-year global pandemic is obviously a task none of us wish to live through again or had ever lived through before. But this year's been a lot better. We've early on we had some good pricing. The crop was later this year than normal, but all in all, we've picked our crop and we've been able to market it and sell it.
Reporting in Homerville for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
It's easily the most widely consumed seafood in the U.S., with the average American eating nearly 5 pounds of it every year. However, more than 90% of this product is being imported from countries all over the world. Damon Jones reports from Glenn County, where the shrimping season is officially underway, and tells us why there's some concern about its future here in Georgia.
This is now a common sight along the Georgia coastline, as June 8th marked the official start of shrimping season in the state. That means it will be all hands on deck for the next 6 months, as these crews will try and supply the ever-increasing demand for fresh, local seafood.
Federal water shrimpers can actually shrimp year-round, assuming we don't get temperatures too low. But for our state waters, which go out to 3 miles, typically our beaches open sometimes around late May, early June. And a lot of that depends on the conditions of the shrimp. So the state does have monitoring stations throughout our estuaries and offshore for them to assess the size of the shrimp, the reproductive status. They also look at things like water temperature and salinity.
The start of shrimping season is of particular importance for the more than 400 licensed boats in Georgia, as it allows them to control their input costs while also hunting for the more highly valued product.
When the state waters are closed, the shrimpers might have to go, they have to go out more than 3 miles. And there's an economic cost to that. And certainly when you can shrimp, right off the beach, that makes it a lot more economic for these guys. But that's also this time of the year, we have a lot of our roast shrimp, and these are the shrimp that have recently spawned. And these are really prized in the market because these are the much larger size shrimp.
Now, getting the shrimp from the water and into the market is much harder than it seems, as crews are working from sunup to sundown 7 days a week over the next few months. It's one of the big reasons why you see a major decrease in boats on the water.
This is not something that's a part-time job. They get up early every day, they're long hours, it's hot out, and it's not for your average person, quite frankly. And you'll find that a lot of our shrimpers, whether it be Georgia or another state, this is in their blood. Usually their uncle, their grandfather, their dad did it. So often it gets passed down generation to generation.
And that is a concern for those involved with the industry here in the state, as it is affecting every aspect of the profession.
A lot of times we hear what's called collectively referred to as the grain of the fleet. And as I mentioned earlier, often the shrimpers come from a family of shrimpers. And unfortunately, a lot of times the younger generations are just not getting into that. And this is not unique to Georgia. And it's not just the fishermen. It might be the people that work at the wholesalers, the retailers, but things like welders, electricians, because they have to maintain our boats. And, unfortunately, our boats aren't getting younger.
A thriving shrimping industry is especially vital for the coastal region of Georgia, as it has a major economic impact across the board.
For a lot of the people that live here, they recognize when those boats start going out on a daily basis, people really do get excited about knowing they get Georgia shrimp, and not only for themselves, but for our economy. You think about tourism, how important that is to the whole state, but particularly here on the coast, because that's something that draws millions of people to our coast every year, is knowing that they can get this wonderful Georgia shrimp.
Reporting from Glenn County, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
Well, that's no fish. That's a big old tadpole right there. And I'm going to explain after the break how Aglands can help that guy in a minute. Well, I've come out of a research facility here at the University of Georgia full of tanks where amphibians are. Don't have my mask on anymore, fully vaccinated and doing well, but I'm hanging out with a colleague and friend who studies reptiles and amphibians. And I want to tell you about why it's important to know a guy like Dr. John Mayers. Dr. Mayers?
How are you, Nate?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm good.
Well, good. So Dr. Mayers is also fully vaccinated, and I'm assuming your buddy here is as well. Doc, could you tell us, in your work as a herpetologist, about this little fella you're holding and its conservation status in Georgia, which is where we're going to go today in our segment?
Sure. Well, Georgia's an amazing place because we have an incredible diversity of amphibians and reptiles. It's a big part of our natural heritage. And one of the things that we're trying to do here at the University of Georgia is understand and help conserve some of the salamanders and frogs that are in decline. And for example, this guy here, this is a gopher frog. It is arguably our rarest frog in the state of Georgia. There's only really a few good intact populations left in the state. It's a species of greatest conservation need, so it's a priority for the state of Georgia and all the states within the gopher frog's range. And it's also now been petitioned as a candidate for federal protection under the Endangered Species Act.
Wow. So this is something that if I've got some land south of the fall line in Georgia there in the southeast, I need to know about this guy. And it's interesting that John's got gloves on, I've got gloves on, just because he's such a protected species and his skin is so sensitive. We're wearing these guys to protect him. John, I want to tell the folks at home where this guy begins his life cycle. I want to go outside with you, and we talked before this today about these big tanks that John has to study these guys in the infancy stage. So let's hop on over there next. Well, take a look around you. What you're looking at is a place for would-be gopher frogs that are going to be hanging out as babies. And John, I look at this and I think to myself, as an uneducated, not knowing much about herpetology at all, this just looks like a bin full of rainwater. Talk to me about this. Is a habitat?
Yeah, so when you look at all of these tanks around you here, you can kind of think of this as our version of recreating a wetland specifically to raise gopher frogs. And so in each of these tanks are individuals that we introduced as little tiny tadpoles, and then we're rearing them up in here with the ultimate goal of releasing them back out into restored habitats in Georgia.
So I look at this thing, it's in the blazing sun, it's getting hot now in Georgia. Why no shade, John? I mean, is this something that is okay for them? I'm just concerned about their viability.
Well, you've actually touched on to a really important part of gopher frog ecology. So gopher frogs, like a lot of amphibians in Georgia, they actually like isolated ephemeral wetlands, the wetlands that tend to dry up every year or two. And they also like those wetlands to be really open. So not a lot of trees and things overhanging them. And that's because when you have that open wetland, what that allows is two things. It allows a lot of sunlight to penetrate, so it warms up the water a little bit. It also promotes a lot of algal growth and things like that. And when you have a lot of good algal growth, they can grow faster and they can get out of the water before that wetland dries up. The other thing is that when you have that, kind of bright, open, sunny area, when that wetland's dry, it promotes the growth of a lot of grasses and herbaceous plants, which are really good fuel when that wetland floods. And as you can see, there's bits of grass in here, and this tank is full of a native grass that we collect from the wetlands here in Georgia. And when that grass starts decomposing in this sunlight, it just creates this perfect growing environment for these tadpoles. And so you can see they get quite large, and these guys can grow really, really large, and they can complete their whole tadpole cycle in about 100 days if we give them good growing environments.
Incredible. I was expecting John to pick out something that was the size of a quarter, and this thing is almost the size of $1.
Yeah, I mean, they grow remarkably fast to a very large size, which is something really special about the ecology of gopher frogs. It tells us when a tadpole grows this big really fast, it tells us that they're kind of adapted to a world that's going to dry up, but it needs to have lots of productivity. It needs to have lots of energy for them to grow that fast. And that's why you need open, herbaceous things. And so that's what we've tried to recreate here on this kind of concrete platform.
And Dr. Maris mentioned the grass. This is a special kind of grass. John, you are studying not only the grass, but how quickly these guys grow in different temperatures too?
Yeah, well, we're actually looking at two things with regards to temperature. So one, temperature, we've done some research to show that when we shade these systems, it reduces the productivity, it cools them down a little bit, and that reduces their growth, and, and they also tend to be smaller when they come out as juvenile frogs. But the other thing that temperature does is it actually can influence whether or not they end up being a boy or a girl.
Wow.
Yeah, and because we're using these animals to try and restore populations, we would like to make sure that a good proportion of them are females. And so, so we monitor the temperature, and we're trying to understand how the temperature environment also influences the production of female frogs.
And John, who would have known by looking at these bins that all the science that's going on inside of here right now? What I want to do is I want to talk to the folks at home next about what they can do to help and things they can do on their property, because this is so interesting to see all the things that you're studying here. So let's slither on over there next. All right, so what we were just looking at there is a 2-month-old, Dr. Maris was saying, 2-month-old tadpole. How long until that guy's going out in the wild?
So in about another month, they will begin to metamorphose and come out. And so they'll be little juvenile frogs, a little bit bigger than your thumb, you could say, a little bit thicker. And what will happen then is, in this area right now, we'll produce, for example, about hopefully somewhere around 2,000 young frogs. And then we will be taking them to places in Georgia where the habitat's been restored for species like the gopher frog. And what we will do is we will actually track and see how they do, like what their survival rates are like, and if they're finding the kind of appropriate habitats that they need and those kind of things.
Wow, and this is all done proactively. This is not a reactionary. You are getting out ahead of the curve, helping these guys. What can folks on their land do to help?
So there's a couple really important things. As I mentioned before, these guys need open, herbaceous, isolated wetlands. And so a lot of times we've had this tendency in those wetland areas to just leave them alone and think that leaving them alone is, you know, good for the wetland. But actually these wetlands need disturbance. They need ways of getting, you know, fire into those wetlands when they dry down periodically. We need to keep the herbaceous, or I'm sorry, the vegetation like shrubs and trees from growing up too much in those wetlands. Okay. And so that's one thing that people can do is, you know, kind of keeping wetlands from becoming overgrown with trees and shrubs, allowing natural processes like people who are doing prescribed fire on lands, allowing those fires to burn through those wetlands can be helpful for these animals. And then the other thing is that the areas just surrounding these wetlands, these animals rely on burrows and getting down in the soil. And so they need access to stump holes and mammal tunnels and tortoise burrows and those kind of things. And so having those areas around a wetland where they can find the refugia they need is also really important.
That's incredible. We have learned today from Dr. Maris what we can do. We've learned the story of this gopher frog. This has just been really exciting. John, thanks so much for that.
My pleasure, man.
I really enjoyed it. I hope you all did too. And you know what to do. While you're online checking out the old Ranger Nick videos on YouTube, check out the Ranger Nick Facebook page and see what we got going on there. And until next time, for the Farm Monitor, as I always say, I'm Ranger Nick, reminding you that enthusiasm is contagious. So pass it on. Y'all, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you back here next month. See ya.
Nick is one of a kind, isn't he? Well, don't forget, if you missed any part of Nick's episode or other stories on today's program, you can still see them in their entirety at our YouTube channel, The Farm Monitor. As we always say, plenty of stuff to choose from because the archives go back to 2009. And while you're there, keep clicking and like the Farm Monitor Facebook page. Send us some feedback as well. If you have an idea for a story or if you just want to leave us a comment or suggestion, send us a message either on Facebook or the address that is on your screen, news@farm-monitor.com. When we come back, information you need to know on complying with Georgia's new outdoor burn laws. Stay tuned.
Oh, look, it is great. I've had it for a long time. I mean, I see the benefits in the organization, not just from the insurance side, but also just the advocacy side to keep this environment we got. It's so important because there's so many issues that are going on, obviously at the federal level and the state level. Every year it's impossible for a lot of small farmers or even bigger farmers to keep up with everything. So you really need groups like Farm Bureau, and got a great leader in President McCall now that knows the process as good as anybody. I talk to you know, a lot of this crowd all the time. They do a great job working with us to promote the industry and to protect people too, which is a big part of it. And we know that fight's coming nationally right now when you think about capital gains taxes and you know, the death tax that farmers have fought for a long time, and I'll certainly be in that fight with you on that.
He's been one for a long, long time, and I'm glad he understands the importance of the membership of this organization and continues to keep his membership. And I hope folks listen to him, you know, when he said join. So that's what we need, is the highest office in the state of Georgia being a Farm Bureau member.
Finally this week, all of us here at the show try to have your back, hopefully, to prevent you from getting burned both physically and hypothetically from local and state authorities.
Which is why we're bringing you this next valuable piece of information, how to comply with Georgia's new outdoor burning laws, courtesy the Georgia Forestry Commission.
For a long time, Georgians have been getting rid of outdoor yard debris by burning it. Most times all goes well, but sometimes it doesn't. Escape debris burning is the #1 cause of wildfire in Georgia. Georgia Forestry Commission wildland firefighters respond to more than 3,500 wildfires a year. To serve you better, some changes are being made to the outdoor burning laws. As of July 2021, you no longer need to notify the Georgia Forestry Commission with your intention to burn hand-piled yard debris. The requirement to log in to gatrees.org or to call the toll-free notification number has been eliminated. New requirements added to the law put you in full charge of your burn and require that you follow 5 practices to legally burn yard debris. We're here to help you do that safely with an easy-to-remember formula. Before you start your fire, take 5. Take 5 means remembering 5 responsibilities you have and must legally take every time you burn hand-piled debris. First point, measure the space between your burn pile and existing brush or woodlands. It must be 25 feet or more. That's about the width of a typical 2-lane highway. Space is also the second point on the star. Your fire must be at least 50 feet from any structure. Barns, sheds, garages, and the like. T is for time. Your burn can only take place between sunup and sundown. The star's fourth point is A, for attendance. The person responsible for the fire must stay on site until the fire is extinguished. Finishing up the Take 5 star, number 5 is R, for reasonable precautions. Take those precautions before you burn to prepare for any potential problems. Reasonable precautions include a pressurized water source, man-made or natural fire barriers such as bare mineral soil or bricks, hand tools such as shovels or fire-containing equipment, and finally, weather awareness. You can easily check weather conditions and forecast on your computer or handheld device. Make sure you sign up for weather alerts. So what has changed? You no longer need to notify the GFC when you burn hand-piled yard debris on your property. What hasn't changed is what you can and can't burn. Be sure to remember these rules you see on the screen. No garbage, only vegetative debris. Don't move the debris from one location to another to be burned, and follow all local laws. Requirements have not changed for agriculture, silviculture, and land clearing burns, nor for air curtain destructors. Call your local ranger for those activities. Suppression charges may apply if reasonable precautions are not taken and wildfire results, so don't ever be shy about calling 911 for help. Please visit our website for more information at gatrees.org, and thanks for helping keep Georgia safe from wildfire.
Huge thanks to the Georgia Forestry Commission for that, and thank you for making the show possible.
Before we send you on your way, a friendly reminder, all the latest ag news regarding food, recipes, and what's happening on Georgia farms, be sure you check out all of our social media platforms, including farm-monitor.com. You'll stay informed and see what's up in the world of agriculture, and with us right here on the show. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time right here on the Farm Monitor.
Have a great week.